And joining us now on the line from San Francisco, California, Jane McGonigal, game designer and senior researcher with the Institute for the Future. Jane, how are you tonight? It's good to have you on TVO.
Thanks, I'm glad to be here.
I want to start with something that you raised at the South by Southwest Interactive Conference in Austin that you recently spoke at. You talked about how multiplayer games are the ultimate happiness engine. What do you mean by that?
So, game designers have basically spent the last 30 years figuring out how to optimize human experience. And if you look at how games are designed, they match up incredibly well with the 4 things that make human beings happy. It was kind of accidental. I don't think game designers set out to make happiness engines, but in the research I've been doing over the last number of years and also in my practice as a game designer, I've been seeing this amazing matchup between what makes human beings happy and the core components of any game system.
And what are those 4 things?
So you can kind of think of it as optimizing and engaging your brain, your body, your heart, and your soul. So the first thing, engaging your brain, it's having satisfying work to do, something that you enjoy doing. And it's different for everybody, but just that sense of satisfying work. The second is the experience of being successful, that kind of thrill you get when you've learned something and you've had a chance to test it out and be good at it. The third is just simply spending time with people that you like. Human beings are social creatures, and so that's really when the heart gets involved. And then there's the fourth feeling of happiness, which is the part of being something bigger, feeling like you are connected to something bigger than yourself, and that's where the soul gets involved. And when you're playing a game, all those 4 things come into play through the mechanics and the story and the community.
Do they only come into play if you win?
No, no. I mean, what's interesting is to be happy, you don't have to be, I mean, you can be frustrated and be happy. You can be, you can fail and be happy. You just have to believe that it's possible to succeed eventually. You have to feel like you're learning. You have to feel like you're in a community with other people who want you to succeed, and feel that there's meaning in what you're doing and what you're trying to do. So no, you don't have to win. You just have to be engaged. Engagement is really the key.
I have also heard you say, though, that you believe reality is broken. That was the expression you used. What do you mean by that?
I think that the way that our work lives are designed, our family lives are designed, and our social lives are designed today is fundamentally broken compared to the way we know how to be productive and innovative and social in virtual worlds and in game environments. It just seems that the systems are better designed in game environments and in virtual worlds than they are in the real world.
Well, let me follow up on that, because I take your point about the 4 things and how gaming can, in some respects, bring you the greatest happiness in life as those 4 things line up. But a lot of people would also say, you know, so many of these games are played by yourself in a solitary setting, away from, you know, other people, and therefore it alienates you further from society as opposed to bringing you closer to society. Is there a paradox there?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's amazing to hear you say that, because I do think it's a widespread belief that gaming is a fundamentally solitary experience in front of a screen, but it's not. The game community has changed. The game culture has changed. By and large, all of the most successful games are networked. They're online. You're playing with other people. It's intensely social. You are probably in a room with other players who are actually playing with you, your friends or your family. And they're intensely collaborative. This idea that even multiplayer games used to be all about beating your opponent. Today's most popular games, from the MMOs to even the first-person shooters, they're incredibly collaborative and social. So the game world has changed, and it's even evolving beyond MMOs and these networked games online to games in the real world, where people are connected through their mobile phones and their GPS devices, and they're out in the real world playing these incredible computer games, but also with face-to-face contact and engaged in the real physical environment. So we have to get away from that idea that games are this sad little thing you play in a room by yourself. That was just a blip on the history of gaming. If you think about the origins of gaming, games have always been social. They've always been about face-to-face interaction, and now finally we're getting back to that. We are moving towards a much more social collaborative experience in a
Okay,
game.
I am going to show a couple of clips in a second here of some of the things you're talking about, but before we go on, some Neanderthals like yours truly here need some help. MMOs are what?
Massively multiplayer online games. And those are just game worlds that exist all the time, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and you can pop in and out and meet up with your teammates, your guildmates, your friends, and your family who are in the same virtual environment as you are.
Can you give me an example?
Sure. I mean, World of Warcraft is the most popular one. There are about 10 million people who are playing it now. And you form these guilds and go on quests together. And everybody has their own unique strength within the game, and so it requires everybody to work together. And it really maps well onto the kinds of collaborations that we're trying to do in real life with collective intelligence and crowdsourcing. So those games, again, it's very different from what you might think of as a single person dueling with a computer.
Understood. Well, these so-called alternate reality games, there's one I gather called World Without Oil, and we're going to show a little clip of that right now, and then we'll come back and talk. Michael, if you would, roll tape.
Gas prices jumped to over $4 a gallon.
There is very much a police state going on in the streets now. One way or the other, we're all in this together.
This is our local farmers market.
This is the jinx. This is peak profit.
Cal here.
Now, I guess for 7 or 8 years you've been designing these alternate reality games, and start by telling us, what do you look for when you're creating a new alternate reality game?
Sure. Well, I mean, alternate reality games are different from typical computer games where in a typical game, you're in a simulated environment. You have an avatar that's like a graphical version of yourself. In an alternate reality game, you're playing yourself. And the game asks you to work with other people from all over the world online to solve a problem or a mystery. So when I start to design an alternate reality game, I look for a problem or a mystery that I think would be best tackled by having thousands or hundreds of thousands of people join forces to try and solve it. And World Without Oil is a great example. We were imagining a global oil shortage, which is something that is hard to tackle that problem on your own. So it was a great topic for an alternate reality game.